So if you want these cards, I can understand. I can understand that the money doesn't matter and the cards don't matter and this and that. I can understand. You just want these cards. That's fine. If that's what makes you happy at the end of the day, that's what makes you happy at the end of the day. But my rebuttal is that if we are to just look at what's on the kind of the market right now for Pokemon cards in the English in a PSA 10 for in between $5,000 and $5,500, you're gonna see a lot of good cards out there. You're gonna see like this Raichu from Team Rocket from 2000. So this is a 25-year-old card going for $5,000. You look at this Erica's Dragonair. It also came out in 1999, so it's 26 years old. You look down and you see this Charizard that is from Flashfire, which is 2015 or 2014. It's also a relatively old card, and they want about $5,000 for it. Now, I'm not saying that these pricings are accurate, but I'm just using them as a perspective. If you were to take $5,000, you could buy a vintage Pokemon card. Now, if we look at what's going for PSA 10 for Japanese cards, I'm going to ignore some of them, and we're just going to look at these Japanese copies of the Screaming Pokemon. And I like them. I like them too. But, that's what you can get for about $5,000. So the comparison I'm making is, yeah, there are expensive Japanese cards. And yeah, there are expensive English cards. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what do you really want? Do you want cards that are in a language you can't read? And do you also want cards that are in a condition, in a language that your next person can't read? Because either way, you're spending $5,000 and you're getting yourself a $5,000 card to sit on. This is just a hypothetical. Do you want an English copy that's worth $5,000? Or do you want a Japanese copy that's worth $5,000? And the other thing is, let's look at the pop reports for these cards. Now, these Screaming Pokemon cards, you can see the Psyduck in a PSA 10 has 1,735 copies, with 6,003 PSA 9 copies. That's a lot to ask for a $5,000 card, in my opinion. And I'll go over some more numbers as well. And this isn't all just about population, but, population does affect it. Let's look at the Eevee, 2,872 with 4,177 in a PSA 9. Let's look at the Pikachu, 3,462 with 873 in a 9. The Mimikyu, 1,343 with 882 as a 9. Rowlet, 4,263 with 1,993 in a 9. Okay, so there's quite a lot of those. Now let's look at the go back and let's look the Raichu, right? 5,000, at least according to this listing. I don't really want to go and nitpick the last cell because I know it's probably not that accurate, but let's just look at it. Dark Raichu first edition, 244 copies in a 10 with 2,016 in a 9. That's a lot more rare. Let's go back. Let's look at let's look at just the set from Gym Heroes, specifically the Erica's Dragonair. 209 copies for first edition Erica's Dragonair with 879 in a PSA 9. And let's just kind of look at what's going on. Blaine's Moltres first edition, 81 copies. Erica's Clefable, first edition, 140 copies. And then let's look at the last one I was kind of pointing at, is this Charizard from Flashfire. Charizard full art, English copy, 184 copies in a PSA 10 with 1,004 in a PSA 9. So that's kind of what I'm getting at with some of these Japanese cards. It's kind of like, but why? Why go after these cards when they are higher population, they are more readily available, they're not in your native language, and if you're gonna buy a $5,000 card, then it's gonna be a $5,000 card. And if you're gonna be willing to spend that much, why don't you consider spending it on the English market anyways? Because the English market is ultimately more rare, period. It's just more rare. And the last thing I kind of want to talk about is the whole pipeline. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the people who benefit the most off these cards are the locals, the Japanese people. And it's nothing against them specifically. I'm just talking reality. If you go with their company, they are always going to benefit themselves the most. They're always going to do the most special things for their own language. They're always going to do Pokemon Center exclusives. I have seen many times these exclusives, and they're always just in Japan. They never really do exclusives for America. They never probably will. They don't really care. We're the second market of them. So my question is just, or what I'm just getting at is hey, Japanese Pokemon cards are not rare at all. They're not. They are oftentimes overprinted. They are easy to pull. They always have been, and they always will be. These specialty cards are available in America, readily available in America. And if you're going to spend a $5,000 on a card, why wouldn't you want to spend it on a card in the same language that you speak? Because most likely your next buyer is going to be an English speaker as well. Now, and like I said, there are always exceptions to the rule. There are some people who are just not going to give a damn. And if they really want that felt hat Pikachu, or they really want that, cosplay Charizard, or cosplay Mario, or cosplay Team Skull Pikachu, they're going to do whatever they want with their money. And I do think that they're a little bit foolish, because the market is still hot, and these cards are way more in population and in circulation than the older cards that have been released through English. And that's why I just avoid buying Japanese cards. There could come a time where I really want something that's in Japanese, but ultimately probably not, because there's this toxic pipeline of you can only get it in Japan and you have to pay a piper just to get it. It's essentially just like paying a scalper. There's not a lot of good fair business coming our way as collectors to try and incentivize us to even collect these cards anyways. And we only know what the pop report is in English.